Welcome to Thrive, the podcast that delves into the deep, deep heart of faith, family, and mental health. Today, we embark on a journey through the world of Christian homeschooling, guided by a special guest whose story will ignite inspiration and insight.
I'm Natty.
I'm Vita,
And we are here to thrive. We're honored to be joined today by Gina Henderham, whose journey mirrors the essence of our podcast, uplifting families through faith-centered conversations. She's a mom, a wife, and an author. Welcome to Thrive, Gina.
Welcome, Gina.
Thank you for having me.
Before we dive into our conversation, if you can tell us a little bit about your journey, on how you became a Christian homeschooling mom.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, I had my two oldest in school. It was a charter school, so it was not totally the same as public school, but it wasn't private either. It was kind of like in between, I guess you would say. And it was a wonderful school, nothing wrong with it. I mean, as far as great education, great people, the difference between the charter and the public school would be families were a little bit more involved. So it was great in that way. But I was just feeling a little bit pulled towards homeschooling. I'd heard of it, but I was like, I don't think I can do that. Like there's no way. And then my friend told me about this documentary called Indoctrination. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh, so you're going to have to watch that. I forget the guy who made it, but look it up. It's very convicting, very eye-opening to what the government's agenda is for our children, because it's so hidden and so deceptive that you don't see it with your plain eyes, until people reveal it to you. So when I saw that, I just really felt like, as a Christian, I just really felt convicted, like I need to bring them home. So I told my husband, and he was like, basically thought I was crazy. So he needed a lot of convincing. And once I started, the first year was a little bit rough, but it was okay. And then the second year, the first day, I was calling all the private schools in the area to see what the prices were, because I was like, I can't do this. It's, because the first day,
It's a lot.
I was like, but I knew we couldn't afford it, and I knew that I wasn't going to send them back. So I called my husband. I was like all upset. I'm like, I can't do this. It's too much. And he's like, well, you're going to give up now after all this work that you've put in? And I'm like, well, I guess not. So we persevered, and that second year ended up being probably one of our most favorite year. It was really fun. We joined a co-op and found all these other homeschoolers in the area. And here we are 10 years later. So
how old were the kids when you started homeschooling them?
So my oldest, I just pulled her out after third grade. So she would have been like 9,
10.
And then my son, he was probably 5 or 6.
Okay. Kindergarten, first grade.
Yes.
Yeah, kindergarten kindergarten for him, because he went to VPK and kindergarten, and then she went through third grade. And I just had a baby, so the first year was a little bit rocky, because I also was going through a lot of postpartum depression. It was a little bit much, but I felt like I had to do it. If that makes sense. Like, I just felt like I could not give the government my children anymore, because God gave them to me, And so, but yeah, here we are, and it's been a journey. So
You share some of the insight that you have integrating your Christian values and teaching into your curriculum.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of the curriculum we pick is Christian. So I guess just avoiding certain things, like, we don't do evolution, obviously. making sure that everything we pick is morally and, theologically sound. And we do our own things too, like, we try to have devotions. I mean, we're not great at having them every day. We used to be better when the kids were a little younger. Got to get back into that groove. But we would read the Bible, sing a little hymn or something, and, stuff like that. Just talk about it throughout the day. God says, talk about the scriptures when you rise and when you sit down and when you go to bed and when you stand up. So I feel like when they're in school, you just don't have that opportunity as much because they're away from you for, what is it, like 8 hours a day?
Yes.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of like living your day-to-day life as a Christian with your kids and letting them see, we're reading the Bible together and we're, talking about the important things. I also I'll have my kids copy like the Westminster Catechism, which just I don't know if you're familiar, but it's just kind of goes back to like the Reformation time where question and answers, to help them kind of learn like apologetics, kind of, I guess you could say. But I would say like the science and the history, that's kind of the main things that you would want to make sure are sound theology. Like, you're not teaching them that we came from monkeys and we're a boy or a girl scientifically, biologically, stuff like that. So
Did you homeschooling for a minute? Do you have any memorable moments of your journey that you can share with us?
I
Something
would
that was
say
extra funny or something crazy?
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything like super crazy, but I definitely, some things that stuck out to me were like when we would do co-ops and stuff, like our kids would be able to do presentations, even like my little one at 2 and 3, but of course the thing about homeschooling is I would go up with her. It's not like she had to do it, or she could if she wanted to. She didn't have to. So she got to go up there and talk all about the penguin we saw at SeaWorld and how it pooped on the lady that we saw. So that was kind of funny because we had to go up there and talk to, the people. And, but yeah, I really enjoy that freedom about homeschooling, and just, you can be a family unit and do all those things together. But I love those presentations. Those were extra special. My daughter's going off to work. Sorry. Just waving to her.
Gina, you mentioned evolution.
Yes.
And about a month or so ago, with the 18-year-old, we had a lesson called The Big Bang Theory. And I had to sit down and explain to him. My mother was a science teacher for 38 years. And every year that she taught evolution, she would give a speech. I don't believe in this. I'm a Christian. I believe that God created us. I don't believe there was a Big Bang and we were just here. And I had to explain that also to my grandson.
Yeah.
I said, God created us. You were baptized at 12. We know this, but we have to study the science of it. But I just don't want you to get caught up in the science of
Right.
it. You need to know that we were created. Okay?
Exactly.
We were not created from a big explosion. We were created by the Creator, God Almighty.
Exactly.
And that lesson was within a Christian curriculum. That lesson of the Big Bang Theory was within a Christian curriculum.
Really?
Yeah, it's an earth science.
Earth science.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's hard because I feel like that's why we have to be so involved as parents, because we just don't know what they're being taught. And I mean, even as homeschool parents, like, we can't catch everything,
Right.
Like my 18-year-old, whatever book she's getting from the library. Like, I can't read them all before she reads them. That's just not realistic. But I think having the strong foundation and teaching them, what's right and wrong, and just being able to have those conversations like you had with your grandson. But I do think it is harder when they do come from the public school system. Like our first year of homeschooling, I remember, and I don't remember the exact conversation or what it was about, but I said something, and one of my kids was like, well, Mrs. So and so said, whatever it was, and it was contrary to our beliefs. And I had to explain, like, well, Mrs. So and so doesn't know everything. But it's hard for them as kids to be like, okay, mom says this, but my teacher, who has a teacher's degree and who's been to college, and, because to them, their teacher knows everything, and it's like, it's hard
Well,
to kind of get that. But being a parent, it's just important to be able to explain that. So,
and the reality is, with the shortage of teachers, we don't even have those people with degrees and formal training anymore. Right
right,
now, they're giving temporary licenses to almost anybody. And, you don't know who's teaching your kids. They might not have those skills. They might not have the degree in children's education or things like that. So,
exactly. That's
on
true.
top of not only having the belief system or the idea that your teacher knows everything, because they do have the normal background and education, that might not even be true nowadays.
Right.
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 Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's true. That's very true. But from a kid's perspective, it is definitely hard to, to kind of switch your mind. Well, yes, I know your teacher said this, but so yeah, I mean, I just once after the first year, those questions kind of stopped, but I would say that was a challenge in the beginning for sure. So,
So you just wrote a book.
yes.
Tell us about your book and what was the inspiration behind that book?
So, um, well, I've been thinking about writing a children's book for quite a while now. It's kind of just been like on the back of my mind, nothing really, you know, actions towards it. And I came across a workshop on Facebook for a children's book. And since I'm an entrepreneur and an opportunist, I was like, let me check this out. So I wrote my first book. It's called Whale's Wonderful Expedition. That one I have on my website, but the thing about that one is this was kind of like my trial, and I didn't get a professional editor or a professional illustrator. I just kind of I worked really hard on it, but I didn't go the extra mile because it was kind of like my experiment. So when I got 500
You
printed,
self-publish?
so I'm
Did you
self-published.
self-publish?
Self-published, yeah.
Oh,
So I have it on
okay.
my website. So the thing about it is when I got 500 printed, I noticed there's a word missing. So um so that was interesting. So I do still have it on my website for a discount with a disclaimer telling them. I mean, it doesn't take away from the joy of the story, but I was like, I can't believe it. So anyway, I decided to write another one. So I'm writing this one's a middle grade chapter book. And this book is about a homeschooling family, a Christian homeschooling family that um, really just enjoys each other. And it's a traditional family, a mom and a dad, based in the 90s, back when, well, not that the 90s was the most moral era either, but it's kind of based more off like the classics where there's morals and values and, family oriented things. Sarah, the main character, has been dreaming for this Christmas wish for since she was 3 years old, and she's 10. So she's really hoping that she's old enough now that her parents will let her get this gift. But yeah, it's kind of just, I wanted to bring in a story of homeschoolers because people need to know that there is a larger community of homeschoolers out there that they might not be aware of. Kids need to know that they're not the only ones that are homeschooled. And, back in the 90s, it was definitely not very known. But even in my book, they have a co-op. They go out together with their friends and they do things, with other people. But yeah, it's kind of based off my childhood, even though I wasn't homeschooled, but it's like my old neighborhood, my childhood memories, and then my kids' memories kind of all mixed in. So it's very nostalgic for me, but also for 90s kids. And then if you live in Chicago, then that's a bonus too. But yeah, it kind of that book started because um, it's funny how one tiny little idea will spark like this whole thing. When my son was 6, I used to we would go to the dollar store at Christmas time and they would each get like $5-6 and they'd buy everybody a gift. Well, I would let them go off on their own. I would watch them, through the things. But this time my son had a broom in his hand, which you can't hide that because it's big. So it was hilarious because you would see him kind of like peeking around the corner to make sure I wasn't watching. And then he would like dart across, and he's like desperately trying to hide this like huge broom, but like he can't because that's impossible. So it was like hysterical. Like there was other people in the store that were just like, this is so cute and funny. So I don't know, that just like, I wanted to make a Christmas story about my son's broom gift that he gave me. But that kind of just sparked it, but that's not what the main story is about. It just kind of turned into this big thing. So, but yeah, I'm really excited about this book. Like kids nowadays, they really just need to we need to bring back the old classics, but in like new versions, not versions, but like new stories, but the same classic approach, the same, with morals and values and family oriented activities where parents actually enjoyed their kids. I feel like a lot of times nowadays people are like, oh, I can't wait to send them back to school. And, like when summer's over, it's just like, oh, thank God it's like summer's over, or, telling people they need to stop having kids because they have too many kids. Or, I mean, it's just silly, but this family, they love each other. They want to be with each other. And yeah, it's a good example for kids. They need that.
So the character in your book is homeschooled.
Yes, yes. So the whole family.
Okay.
So two siblings, and they have a homeschool group, and they go do things together, and so yeah, I think it's going to
I'm
be a
glad you
good.
mentioned about activity. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Uh,
I was.
I was saying, no, I was just saying that I'm glad you mentioned about the activities that the kids in the book were having, but also
Mhm.
when you were talking about your kids about the co-op. Because I know one of the biggest myths about homeschooling is that the kids are isolated, that there is no socialization, no other activities. My personal joke is that I am an Uber for a toddler. He has a better social life than than mine because we
Yeah.
go to story time, we go to the park, we have all these groups that he attends to as part of his pre-K homeschooling thing.
Mhm.
And I, when somebody, what are you doing? I'm Ubering for a toddler. That's what I'm doing. Like I said, he has a better social life than I have. So
Oh yeah.
the whole myth of homeschooling kids are not socialized and they don't interact with other kids. So I'm glad you mentioned that not only in your book, but as you were talking about the activities that your kids participate in.
Yeah, I mean, it is really hilarious that is a thing because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes our social activities take over our academics and I have to pull back a little bit. Um,
Yes.
there's so many more opportunities when you're just
Mm-hmm.
a family and if my husband's home and we want to go to the zoo, we go to the zoo. If we but also like you're saying when you bring him to the toddler class and all this stuff, like I'm sure they're not all exactly his age. Some might be a couple years older, some
Right.
might be a little bit younger. So they're learning to interact with not only just their peers, but the parents and the librarian and all the people in the different age groups. And we don't live in a cave. We go out in the community, we do things with other people. And I mean, I went to public school and I'm very socially awkward. Like, so it's actually, my kids make fun of me all the time, like not in a mean way, but it's funny because when I'm writing my book, I'm like, I love this part. But then when I realized I have to market my book, I'm like having like all this anxiety because I mean, I love talking to you guys, but the thought of actually being out in the world and on a podcast, I'm like, that's like out of my comfort zone. Totally. And my first podcast I was on, my daughter was sitting on the couch next to me. And I was like, so how did I do? She's like, you did the same as always. I'm like, so totally socially awkward, like normal. She's like, yep. I'm like, all right.
At least you're consistent.
No, I'm like, I don't know. I'm weird and it's okay. But yeah, I
Well,
just
the good thing is you're in good company. You're in good company.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we still look at each other about what we're doing because it has taken me, oh my God, over a year to get comfortable in front of a camera. I could go to church and, we had groups, smaller groups, and I could teach a class. That doesn't mean, I don't know, God has given me this gift that I can like tone out the emotions, and I am trembling inside, but people around me, oh, you were so calm. No, I wasn't.
you didn't see
So
inside of me.
right, somehow.
Yeah,
And I took some communication classes in college, so I guess that helped.
right.
But she was even worse. She's like, you're not putting me in front of a camera. So you're in good company. You are in real good company because we don't even believe we're doing this.
Yeah, when Natty came to me and said the Lord told her this was going to be a ministry, I'd already decided in my head, okay, I'm going to be your sidekick. I'll make sure you have everything to drink, some snacks, the lighting, everything. And she looked at me and said, no, we're going to do it together. I'm like, on camera, together? I had to do some praying because she kept looking at me and she knows I don't just jump into things. I have to think about it. I have to take it
Right.
apart, put it back together, make sure it's a fit for me.
Right.
God had practically had to send her a text message saying, I want you to do this with her.
We were at church one Sunday. The message is like the spotlight was on us.
And we're in a huge church, so it's not like
Huge.
like a 50 people church that the pastor knows what's going on. Like
Right.
we're in a 15,000 people church. So, it's God when he even said from the pulpit, God is asking you to do a podcast. When are you going to do it? I was like, oh my God.
I wouldn't even look at her. I'm sitting in church going, because I could just see her going, hello, hello. That's what I've been telling you. But yeah, I got convicted, and it was a no-brainer. It really was a no-brainer after I stopped kicking and fighting and screaming. I'm like, okay, we can do this, And the main thing that we want to do, get information out to people.
Yeah.
Even in homeschooling, we need to have good mental health. Hello. Okay. If my mind is not into it today, I may tell you, you need to work on your own today, right? Do a little work on your own, and then we'll come back and try it tomorrow because we still have life. Things still happen. They're not always good things, but we got to deal with them and then put on a smile and have patience for our children that we're
Oh,
homeschooled.
yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely noticed that homeschooling is a sanctifying tool. Have you guys noticed that for yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
We
I just
call
I
on
don't
Jesus a
always.
whole lot.
Yes.
we yes, we
I
got.
am surprised the baby doesn't think his name is Jesus.
I'm surprised because she says Jesus so much, and somebody asked him his name. My name is Jesus.
So my
But
10-year-old
here's the thing. Good.
my 10-year-old used to think that our pastor was God when she was like 2 or 3, and I had to explain like,
Oh,
no,
that's so adorable.
he's just talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Right.
right.
Well,
um,
and one of the things as parents, we're trying to equip our children for life.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
it's yes, we're teaching reading and math and science and history, but at one point we're going home and they're going to have to deal with their own life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think one of
Yeah.
the things that we can teach our children is the emotional stability and how to take care of themselves. School doesn't do that.
Oh no, they don't.
If you need a day off mentally because you're overwhelmed for whatever reason, or you're sick because you can't have but so many absences. But if you're sick, you have to show up to school unless you're contagious and then they send you home, but that absence still counts.
Right.
So we are teaching our children a healthier way to live, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I know, and I want to make sure that our listeners hear this. I know not everybody can homeschool.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
know that, and there are ways to homeschool. Like, I don't have a full time job now. This is basically our full time job now plus homeschooling. But when we started homeschooling, I had a 9 to 5,
Yes, she did.
and we were still homeschooling.
Yep.
In homeschooling has the flexibility of schedule. You
Exactly.
can homeschool in the morning if that's when you work.
Or
You can,
the evening.
or the evening, or on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can arrange things that work for your schedule. I'm in a lot of homeschooling groups, and I've seen parents who have full time jobs
Mm-hmm.
and are still homeschooling.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know it's not for everybody, but if somebody really wants to do it, there are ways to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's it's not necessarily easy, but it's also easier than you think. Because
Right.
like for instance, my 10-year-old, I sit with her and do it only because not that she can't do it on her own, but she can get distracted easily. So if we want to just like get it done, I'll just sit with her just to kind of help her keep on task.
Right.
And we can be done in like 2 hours. And that's everything. That's math, spelling, reading, all that stuff. And then there's time for cooking. Come help me in the kitchen. Go get your apron on. Come cut an onion. Come cut the potatoes for me. But there's like the life skills involved there, and for my 16-year-old, like he already knows what he wants to do. So he's gonna be in 11th grade this coming school year. So we're gonna focus more on business because he wants to be a franchise owner. So we're gonna have him take some business courses and learn how to do his taxes and things like that. Whereas when you're in school, there's a lot of like busy work and time wasted, or they're learning about parallelograms, and which, not that that's a wrong thing to learn about,
Right.
but unless you're going to be like an engineer or something,
Architect.
yeah, I mean, it's better to learn how to do your taxes or learn how to make a meal. Like I was just telling a lady earlier today that I was on another podcast. I was saying, when I got married, I knew how to make mac and cheese. That's it. And it's not that my mom didn't want to teach me. I had no interest at the time. But I feel like, if you instill those learning skills when they're like little, and young, then at least they have those skills. And not that it's not to say that public school kids can't learn those skills. It's just that when you're homeschooling, you have more time and more ability to kind of bring your kids alongside you and say, come help me with the laundry. Let me show you how to do it. Come, you know, whatever it is, come with me to the grocery store. Which thing is cheaper? What should we get? Should we get the thing on sale or should we get the thing that's $10? Oh, look, these are 2 for $5. Let's get these, like just learning those skills when you're young, I think makes it a lot easier when you're older. I had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm like not the best housewife in the world. I'm not the best homemaker. Like I'm learning these skills. And I've been married for 18 years. So I just feel like, being a mom and having your kids around you all the time and being able to kind of just show them as you live is so helpful. And it'll be a less harder, an easier learning curve for them when they're older.
One of the main things that Natty taught me when we started homeschooling, everything is a teaching experience.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, it is. The 3-year-old loves to cook with her.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
But we also started teaching the 18-year-old how to cook, how to wash, how to separate clothes,
Right.
and especially by them being growing up to young men, they need to know how to clean. The worst thing that I could do for any woman in the future is not teach my boys how to clean, how to cook, even if you could just boil a hot dog. Okay, you can do something,
Exactly.
but everything is teaching experience. We go in the store and the 3-year-old can name all the fruits, all the vegetables, and stuff. So
That's so cool.
it's really becoming natural.
Yeah, it's integrated.
Exactly. It's kind of like learning is a lifestyle. Right.
It is.
And
Right.
like you're learning as you live and as you grow together as a family.
Right.
When I yell and scream at my kids because I'm having a lack of self-control, they can see, not that I'm perfect at it, but they can see that I'm recognizing that I was wrong. Or, I'm sorry I did that. Or, you know what I mean? Like just having them with you all the time, and it's hard. I mean, moms need a break. So like I get it when parents do say, oh, I can't wait for them to go to school. I mean, it kind of like irks me, but at the same time I'm like, I understand sometimes you need a break. But they need us and we need them, and it's our job. God gave them to us. He didn't give them to the government.
Right. And homeschooling is a ministry.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It is truly a ministry.
Yeah. I mean, and we're sinners. We fail. But think about all the things that they are not being exposed to. And if they are being exposed to it through a biblical lens, through a lens of what's right and what's wrong, they're not being fed that, it's okay to say that you're a cat and everyone else has to go along with your fantasy and pretend with you, or whatever it is. like what we were saying about the evolution, like it's not that my kids don't know about evolution, but they know it's wrong. It's not that they don't know that there's things on TV that aren't right, but at least they're not being fed that everything is okay. You can just live your life however you want and it's fine. Now, I'm not in control of my kids' future. Only God can save them. I can't save them. I can only plant the seeds and pray and hope that they will, follow the Lord. So homeschooling isn't like a guarantee, you know what I mean, that our kids are gonna follow the Lord, but I don't know.
At least you're doing your part.
Yes.
And yes, planting the seeds and keeping them away from some of the exposures that they would have,
Right, right. And
Um,
like you said, we don't have control over our children when they grow up and start making their own decisions, but we are responsible for the foundation
exactly.
that they get. We
Exactly.
teach them when they get grown and move out of the house, they make their own decision. And of course, as parents, we're praying that they remember what they've been taught
Yeah.
and they make the right decision, but they don't always do that,
Right. I mean, and we don't always make the right decision either, but you know,
Yeah, yeah.
Part of being human.
exactly.
But we do believe that we are doing the right thing because we are very important in our children's life right now, being a homeschool. This is
Yes.
a very important time. And
Yeah, they're
we
very
have to
important.
stay prayed up for God to lead us and guide us and show us what to do and show us what to say. And the biggest thing is when we make a mistake or when we mess up, tell the children, I'm sorry. I messed up on this one. I didn't do as well as I had planned to do, and let them know you can apologize.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
human. I make mistakes. I apologize. And let them
exactly.
know this is what you do when you do something wrong.
Yeah,
You
like
got to
owning up.
admit it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, that's God says He'll forgive us, but we are to go to Him with our sin and say, I sinned. I sinned against you, and to hide and pretend we have no sin, we're just
Right.
deceiving ourselves. And um, but yeah, I feel like that's what the world wants, right? That's what, or like Satan, like so deceptively just wants us to feel like everything that we do is okay, it's acceptable. We don't have to own up to our mistakes because they aren't mistakes after all. I mean, why, why wouldn't you be able to just enjoy your life however you please? But that's deceptive, and as impressionable children, it's so easy to get caught up. It's
Yeah.
even it's even easy as an adult to get caught up in those
It
things. That's why
is.
it's so important that we stay in the word and stay grounded and rooted in our faith and be faithful in meet gathering with the assembly, going to church, because we need to preach the gospel to ourselves. We need the gospel to be preached to us because faith comes from hearing. So um, it's important that we stay in the word and all that, because we can get so easily led astray.
Yeah.
And if
We got-
that's true for us, I mean, how much more is it for our children who are so impressionable?
Yes.
So
Is that you or me?
Yeah, I don't know. The sound went crazy.
Mm. Can you hear that?
yeah, I heard a little bit. It wasn't too loud.
Okay.
I heard.
Okay. It stopped. Well, Gina, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah,
We have
thank you so much.
truly enjoyed you sharing with us. And it's good to know that we have a network of homeschooling
Yeah, definitely.
moms and dads. It's not just moms, probably
Mhm.
more moms, but homeschooling moms and dads.
Definitely.
Because number one, we want to keep our children safe. And number two, we want to give them a deeper learning. Not just surface learning. Deeper learning, and let them know that everything you do, it connects. It connects. And to keep God first. To
Yeah.
know that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So we have to teach them because they are sponges. They're
Oh,
soaking up everything. And
mm-hmm.
our goal is try to get them to soak up the good stuff so when they get out in the world, they can decipher between what's good and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised a certain way. So homeschooling is definitely important in raising our children into adults that are going to be an asset to society.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yep.
An asset.
Well, briefly going back to your book, um, aside from the story, what is it that you want your readers and the parents that are going to get these books for their children? What would you like for them to get out of this book?
So I really want them to get out of this book just a traditional family unit, a mom and a dad, and where the dad is the head of the home and he's teaching the Bible to his children, and the mom, she stays home and she homeschools them. And not that there's anything wrong with moms. Like, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a side job, things like that, but I'm still able to homeschool, which is incredible. So I'm not bashing moms who have jobs and things like that. But it's just the wholesome part of it. Our kids need that so desperately now. And I just feel like there's such a lack of that kind of literature. Like, if you look at the old classics, I mean, the rich literature with there's lessons, moral lessons and values that we just don't have anymore. I was telling a lady earlier, when we first moved to West Virginia a year ago, we went to the library. In the kids section, I see a transgender book in there for children. And I'm like, why does a 5-year-old need to see that unless their parents want to teach them about it for the sake of understanding it when they see someone out in the world? But why do they need to be taught that from a library book at 5 years old? That's, so, I mean, we need to have that. We kind of just need to go back to the basics, and we need to reform our reading and what our kids are being taught and read. So yeah, that's really just was my goal, to kind of bring like Little House on the Prairie into the 90s and more modern age.
And it's funny you mentioned Little House on the Prairie. I read the whole series. My mom made me read it. The Laura Ingalls series, I read the whole Little House on the Prairie series. The generation today is different than when we were growing up. There were a couple of things that you knew you automatically had to do. Obey your parents, do your chores, and do your schoolwork.
Yep.
Those three things, and it's so different today.
It is. It's so different. I would say the number one thing about homeschooling that is the hardest is, especially if you haven't established it from day one, is the fact, because you're with your kids all the time, gaining that obedience and that respect and that honor. Yes. Because it is so much easier to just send them to Caesar, right? And just be like, government can raise my kids, then I don't have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But when you're with them all the time, it's constant correction. It's constantly redirecting them to obey. And I mean, my kids don't obey me perfectly. We have lots of problems. It's not going to be a magic potion to homeschool, right, and all of a sudden they're going to be obedient. But you're right. Like, my dad, he had to go get a switch off the tree, and nowadays, if you spanked your child, I mean, you're practically going to jail nowadays. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, but God says that we are to discipline our children. Mm-hmm. And that's how we love them, mm-hmm, because if we don't discipline them, we just let them have their own way all the time. What are we teaching them? I mean, nothing good.
Yeah, so, and that's why the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And my mom used to get switches too for us. That's how I grew up. Yeah. But it's like a child knows today. They will look at you like, you better not touch me. Mm-hmm. And I know you're not supposed to touch me. Yeah. Yep. And it's not good, because that respect is not there. That reverence that we have for our parents. Right. It's not like it was.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're to have a healthy fear of the Lord too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, a respect for God, just like we should have that for our parents. But you're right. It's like completely gone. And, I mean, we struggle with that too with my teenagers sometimes, but I mean, it is just totally a different generation.
It
Really,
is. It
it's just a
is.
totally different generation. So
So you're hoping that your book will come out in the fall, right?
I'm hoping November 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter is basically just it's pre-orders. And the cool thing about that is it kind of it helps to create the project. It helps bring a project to life. So what it's going to do is you will be able to order the book and hopefully get it before everyone else. That's the goal. But also, the proceeds I can use towards helping me pay off my editor, helping me pay the illustrator, any of the fees like the shipping, I'm going to have to get shipping supplies and just all this kind of stuff. It helps goes towards all those things. But also with the Kickstarter, I can offer some cool things that are exclusive just for the Kickstarter. So, for instance, in one of the scenes, Sarah and her family and the whole homeschool group, they go to Chicago to see the Nutcracker. And she's just so excited because she has this amazing dress that she gets to wear to the Nutcracker. So I found a local seamstress who has custom made Sarah's dress for me. And she has agreed to make 30 dresses in any size from newborn to 14, 16. And that will just be exclusively on the Kickstarter. So I'm really excited about that. There'll also be, special editions and bookmarks and audiobooks and digital, all those kinds of things. So, yeah, I'm really excited. And my goal is to make a series out of this book. I have some others in mind. So hopefully I will be working on those shortly. Um, so yeah, so please check it out. I'm excited. It's going to be awesome.
Well, we want to thank you, Gina, for spending time with us this morning. It was very enlightening. And from two homeschoolers to another, God bless you. We're praying for you.
Thank you.
And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Thrive. Be sure to check out Gina's book, and we'll have the Kickstarter link in the description.
Thank you, Gina, so much.
Thank you so much, guys. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Connect with us on social media to get the conversation going. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. Remember, no matter where you are in the journey, you are not alone, and with faith and determination, you can thrive. Until next time, stay blessed and keep thriving. Have a great day.